All right, so welcome to the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We're gonna have a little draft review today. Isaiah, what you think about draft night?
Interesting. Like I was telling you earlier, NBA has to do a better job presentation wise. Got a lot of guys out here wearing hats for teams. They have no like somebody was wearing a Lakers hat, even though he was never going to go play for
I
the
mean,
Lakers,
it was only like 3 minutes before the draft that that pick got traded.
and we all knew he was never going to be playing for the Lakers, but he was sitting there with a Lakers hat on, like Kobe Bryant in the Charlotte Bobcats hat.
It's a moment in history, like the mellow Atlanta Hawks jersey.
I mean, interesting. I thought everything went like all the rumors are also they got to do a job with the rumors getting out because like by draft day, everybody knows who the top 10 picks are going to be. And there's like a couple guys who switch, but like even Scotty Barnes, the rumors came out that he was going to be a top five. He was going to rise just like Patrick Williams last year and just end up in the top five out of nowhere. I thought a lot of teams got some good value. I mean, we'll start at the top. Me and you like Cade Cunningham. We didn't think he was this runaway best prospect, but I guess Detroit's going to go with him. I would compare him on the higher end. He could be a Luka Doncic level player, but I do see a low end where he could be an Evan Turner type of player. That's what his game kind of reminded me of. If his athleticism is there, but it's not that elite athleticism. And
Yeah,
I don't know if he's
I
really
think
a point guard.
I think he's a better shooter than Evan Turner, which will I think is gonna give him a higher floor than to end up like that because and he's bigger. I'm pretty sure, like he's legit 6'8", like good sized body. Like yeah, I saw Jason Tatum with a little bit of better playmaking ability. That Paul George type of I create off the dribble. I'm a good passer. Like I can create the advantage to make the pass. I don't know if he's this next level skip pass type of guy like Luca was coming out, but he definitely has playmaking ability. He plays basically the most important role in the NBA right now, which is point forward, the big wing, scorer, knockdown shooter, three level scorer from all over the floor. Detroit needed that's what Detroit needed. They needed a solid a number one option type guy who you can run your entire offense through. There's no area on the court where he's weak at, and he gives them. I don't know if he's got the highest upside in this class, but I definitely think as far he fits every single team as far as his skill set, and he could be and he immediately steps in as the best player on the Pistons in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I like the prospect. My only thing is in a draft where there was clearly the two guys that we really liked. One of them had the highest upside, and another guy I think in my guy that I like who had a higher floor in my opinion. So I just hope that if in a couple years we don't look back and we wonder how this happened. But I mean, I'm sure he'll work out pretty fine. They got something building. Detroit's actually developed young guys better, and they stole Jeremy Grant in free agency. They had to sell off Mason. They had to sell off Mason Plumlee, but I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll open up more minutes for their young guys, definitely. And then
Uh,
at pick two, we got Jalen Green, the G League guy. He went to the Houston Rockets. I was surprised that they decided they were so interested in a scoring guard, especially because they got Kevin Porter Jr. on the team. They still have John Wall signed to a long-term deal, although I guess you can't let John Wall stop you. I would have gone Jalen Suggs here, but that's just me. If they were looking for a lead guard creator type, I think Jalen Suggs would have been better than uh, Jalen Green. But Jalen Green, I like Jalen Green a lot. Super duper athlete. He's already got the skill set of a dude who could score 20 plus points a game, like the minute he steps on the court. He reminds me of like a little bit shorter Andrew Wiggins almost in terms of like supreme athlete. He's got all the skills of somebody who can score a lot of points, but it doesn't always translate to like a smooth, efficient scoring nights on most nights.
Jalen Green. I mean, I like the prospect. Another guy. I mean, I'm gonna say I saw the Zach Levine in him. He looks like Zach Levine to me, but on the low end side, he reminds me of Gerald Green, a guy that's just really athletic. He's still really skinny. I think he needs a lot of developing. Like if he could put some size on, he's 6'6". He's got the frame. He could be. I mean, he's calling. He said he could be as good as Kobe Bryant, but like he's got that 6'6" frame. Not everybody's gonna be Kobe Bryant, but I like the frame. If he works at it, I could see him becoming that player. But if he just relies on his natural talent, like you could be looking at a Gerald Green type of player. And even if he does develop, Zach Levine might be what you get. I don't really know in this era, 6'6" shooting guards that just are score first. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are like the only guys that have like used that
If
way
Booker
to
just
win.
went to the finals being that guy, being that
Okay,
exact body type.
yeah, but yet everybody said Chris Paul was the guy that drove the band.
Those were stupid people.
uh, I like the potential, but I just don't know if he hits, even if he doesn't become Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, are you going to be walking away with a player that's going to change your franchise to a championship caliber team,
Uh,
especially with the way the league is played today?
yeah, that's actually a good question, but I think Houston went with this pick because he's got massive upside if he hits. Like he's
Yeah.
got the type of athleticism and like baseline scoring skill set of a dude who could be a 25 plus point per game scorer just off of his natural ability alone. And he doesn't have to be developed right away. That's the good thing for Houston. They're not about to compete right away, so he doesn't have to jump in and try to play winning basketball right away. He can work on developing his game around some good vets in like John Wall and Christian Wood, and he's got Kevin Porter alongside too, who's a good playmaker. Jason Tate was the all rookie first team last year, so it's not like they have no talent in Houston, but he's going to be on a team that he can just step right in, get high mids, get a good role, and get a chance to really develop his game.
All right, next we're gonna move on to three, which I'm gonna declare was probably both our favorite fit and value. Evan Mobley going to the Cleveland Cavaliers to team up in that front court with Jared Allen. That's going to be defensively tough to watch and tough to play. Not tough to watch, tough to play against for other teams. Exciting to watch. I think you're going to see lots of big blocks, lots of rim running. I think Jared Allen has underrated skill that he's developing, and I think Evan Mobley has even more skill than Jared Allen has today easily. That's going to be a new that has the potential to be a new era twin towers in the middle of your rotation for sure. I love the fit.
Exactly. That's one hell of a foundation that they have in that front court with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. That should be a dynamic duo for the next 5+ years easily. They have it also helps them overcome their poor guard defenders in Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. They just traded for Ricky Rubio. None of those guys are going to be keeping anybody in front of them. But to have Evan Mobley, who could guard on the perimeter and in the paint, Jared Allen, who's one of the elite shot blockers in the league, I thought it was a perfect fit. And he also has, in my opinion, the highest upside in this class. He's the only guy who could give you that Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo type of 7-foot hybrid wing big man type of skill set that is the most dominant force that's in the NBA today, really.
Yeah, because like
I would have taken him first overall if I was Detroit, honestly. Like that's how good I think his floor is and how high I think his ceiling is for sure.
Yeah, I actually would have preferred, like, we both had high regards towards Mobley and Suggs. In my opinion, if I was Detroit or Houston, I would have taken those guys 1, 2, because I think those guys have high floors and high ceilings. But I mean, going to Cleveland, that's going to be a good fit for him. They also have the Okoro kid from a couple years ago, so their front court's going to be good defensively, which will protect the fact that their backcourt can't stop anybody, probably.
Absolutely. But Garland and Sexton in the pick and roll with Allen and Mobley, that's if they get the right coach, they could be a really good team next for a young team, good team next year. At number 4 overall, we got Scotty Barnes from the 6 man for the Florida State Seminoles last year.
So I mean, he's the guy that, I mean, he could be. I compare him. If you hit, you could have a Ben Simmons level type of player. He's good.
Oh wow.
2 ways he's good defensively for one, and he could guard the coveted guard 1 through 5. And he's more of a facilitator, set guys up type of player. Needs to develop his scoring. I mean, he was this year's guy that just shot up the draft boards. 2 years in a row, Florida State player that came off the bench, shot up the draft boards. But surprisingly, I heard the rumors that Toronto was actually in love with him and he was going to be taken that high. I don't know how they didn't take Jalen Suggs, especially with the rumors coming out that they're going to let Kyle Lowry walk in a sign and trade, so they're going to get assets back from him probably. I would have taken Jalen Suggs here.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Jalen Suggs seemed like the perfect fit to be a Kyle Lowry replacement. Kyle Lowry is what Jalen Suggs reminds a lot of people of. He's just a lot bigger. But yeah, but Scotty Barnes, I'm surprised that they went with another wing just because they have Siakam and OG Anunoby. So it makes me think, are they about to trade Siakam? There has been rumors that they might be letting Siakam go, and Siakam wants to have a fresh start somewhere else after a disappointing season. So maybe they had that in mind. Toronto hasn't been able to develop these non-shooting wings and make them into decent shooters. Siakam and OG Anunoby were both basically non-shooters coming out, and then now they are more than passable. OG Anunoby's become a really, really good three-point shooter. So Toronto does get a little bit of a benefit of the doubt for their player development system. So Scotty Barnes may have a higher floor than we expect. And I expect him to be a really good player for them. He definitely has all the surrounding traits outside of his shooting ability that gives him good upside to if he gets that jump shot up, he could be an all-star caliber player.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I
I
would have
was
taken Jalen Suggs.
I would say like if you don't get Ben Simmons, you're probably just gonna get a bigger Draymond Green. So I think he does have a high floor, and maybe try give Toronto the benefit of the doubt, like you said, but they probably wish that they could have got Evan Mobley. They probably
Yeah,
were trying to trade up, and I can't believe they passed up on Suggs, who was actually the fifth pick. He went to Orlando. Loved the
another.
player.
You
Thought
got
he was, yeah, loved the player. Thought he was definitely a top three player easily. Top two, in my opinion, tied with him and Mobley for guys who have high ceilings and high floors. And I think I guarantee, I cannot see him becoming an all star. He might be a Drew Holiday type of all star where he gets one or two times, but I'm pretty positive that Jalen Suggs will be an all star caliber player. To get him, I love the player. I hate the situation he fell to.
Yeah, that's gonna be the thing for me. I gave it an A grade. I thought that it's a because he was easily the best player available. He steps right in. He's the best shot creator on that team. He's gonna be the leader of the team just off of his intangibles. He's shown the ability to be one of those culture change type of guys, which is what you love out of your point guard, out of your lead guard. But they have Markel Fultz. They have Cole Anthony. So I'm guessing Markel Fultz is probably on the way out, is what I would assume, or they're gonna try to maybe play him more off ball. But like Cole Anthony, I think is somebody who has to be in the rotation too. So with that crowded backcourt, I really don't understand why they felt the need to add more to it. But if you're taking best player available, I think that's a good way to go and worry about the fit later. Hopefully
And that's
they're
what I get. Yeah, yeah. You
but
can finish up.
as a hopefully their new coach can be able to figure out the proper rotation and position or scheme it up for him, or try to get off. So Markel Fultz might be worth something to somebody. He's still got good young talent, even though he's coming off of another big injury. Maybe they can clear the rotation space that way. But I would have preferred them to go after like another one of those two-way wings because they definitely need help in that area. Or maybe a big man. The Turkish big man was also on the board here, who I might have liked better as a fit. But in terms of best player available, it was Jalen Suggs, and it's not close.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I give Orlando props for. Like so many times, everybody preaches best player available, and then get mad at teams for picking a player they have a bunch of because it's supposed to be you're ideally you'd like best player available at a position of need.
Mm-hmm.
But when Dwayne Wade was drafted to the Miami Heat in 2003, I was looking at a scouting report, and they said they preferred it to if the Heat had gone after a position of need, and you can never pass it. You can, and that's how you end up with players that
You don't
bust
pass
because
on
you reach.
talent for need. You
Yeah,
don't pass
yeah.
on talent.
So, I mean, good on to Orlando. I think when Suggs gets there, he'll definitely push one of those guys. He might push both of them easily out the door into like a Luka Doncic, Dennis Smith Jr. situation where it's like, all right, we're gonna build around it. We're gonna go with this guy. But
Yeah,
I'm just gonna breeze through the next five. So we had OKC with Josh Giddey, Frank Kaminga to Golden State,
Jonathan
France
Kuminga,
Jonathan. What did I say?
Frank.
Okay, we'll pass it. We had Franz Warner to Orlando, Davion Mitchell to Sacramento, and Zaire Williams to the New Orleans Pelicans to the Memphis Grizzlies via the New Orleans Pelicans pick.
What do you think is the
Anything to say
best
about
pick of
those
that
guys?
group?
I'll pick a reach and I'll pick the best player. I think the best player is actually going to be I want to say Davion Mitchell, but I'm going to go with France Warner.
Mhm.
He's a wing, a scoring wing that could shoot with Suggs. That's really good culture changing type of players.
Players
I'm
who
surprised.
look like they know how to win.
Yeah. The reach would be Josh Giddey, like the player. He was on the LaMelo Ball team in Australia. I like the potential. He rose in the draft rankings and got overdrafted probably, but Oklahoma City will get the benefit of the doubt. They know how to develop players, so
Yeah,
that's how I just stack that up.
that's why Josh Giddey is going to be my best player of this group because I trust Oklahoma City's ability to develop players, and I think behind Cade Cunningham, he's got the best big wing potential in this draft to be one of those guys who can be the do-it-all offensive creator, shoot off, score off the dribble type of guy. He's definitely much more raw than Cade Cunningham, and it's going to take a lot more development. But OKC is not trying to win right now. So I think he's in a position where he can get slowly developed by a player development team that's been really, really good over the years with their track record. Biggest reach for me would probably be Davion Mitchell. One because the Kings have a bunch of guards already: De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton. They just traded for DeLon Wright, so it didn't make a ton of sense for them to add another guard, especially an undersized guard who who only really showed true shooting improvement for 1 year at Baylor. Excellent defender, like Davion Mitchell, a lot as like a perimeter defender type of player who seems to be ascending in his skill, but with only one real season of that kind of high level play, I don't really know how you decide to go with another guard over another winger big in Sacramento. But that's what the Kings do.
Yeah, and I like Josh Giddey, the player. I mean, he
Mm.
has the pedigree. Both his parents played professional basketball. Like to see that. I think he has a high ceiling, but I gotta see. I'm gonna have to see it. Like he could be a Lamelo, but he has a Lamelo Ball type of game, a poor man's version of it. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm gonna have to see that. We both glossed over Jonathan Kuminga. We thought Golden State would attack wings.
Yeah, that makes sense. He doesn't seem like a guy who's like a win now type of player. He seems more like somebody who might be a throw in a trade or maybe like just a long term development guy. Because he's definitely not ready to play on a championship team in like the rotation. So I don't see any real minutes being available for him. And like as you saw with Wiseman last year, they had to cut his minutes down when they were trying to win just because 19-year-olds usually aren't ready to compete at the level that we think Golden State's trying to compete at. But
Yeah,
Golden State is another team with a big time player development track record. So you can give them the benefit of that of being able to develop Kuminga into the all-star two-way wing that his upside dictates. But it just doesn't seem like a win now move for Golden State, which is surprising.
I'll say one thing about Kuminga. I actually prefer his potential and a potential and ability to grow over his former G League teammate Jalen Green. I think Kuminga has a higher ceiling just off of the type of body and the type of skill he showed on the film of him I watched. I'm not saying I watched all the games, but I think he has more of the do it all. He could do more defending and passing and stuff like. He has to develop his scoring, but I think it's easier to become a better scorer than it is to become a better defender and passer when you go into the NBA. So we'll leave it to Golden State to develop him. But like you said, the first thing
You got to
he's probably
play.
just he's probably just going to be a throw into a trade to get a star player.
Yeah.
That's why I really glossed over it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Davion Mitchell, I like his defense. I think they took him maybe to protect Spidey Mitchell. I mean Spidey, De'Aaron Fox, Swiper, because he's not a great defender. So maybe that was their thought process. And you could have three guards is not a bad thing because Halliburton has size. So
Mm-hmm.
the Sacramento Kings don't get the benefit of the doubt. So people were probably going to shit on whatever pick they took. And Zaire Williams, I didn't know much about him to really have a solid opinion.
Yeah, no. From what I only did my research on Zaire Williams from the Athletic from John Hollinger. It really just seems like that was a reach, according to a lot of people. They said it wasn't the best player available. He needs to add weight to his frame, but he has skills as a ball handler and as a shooter. He has good upside, but he has a low floor. They said he could end up being just a guy. So
I will say
that's surprising for what Memphis. I feel like Memphis needed to chase a guy after like that.
they needed a wing, like a wing. So
But
I
it just
mean, I
seems
could
like
see.
just a desperate need for a wing and not best player available type of pick.
But I will say they developed Brooks, Ja, Triple J. They have an ability to. I give the organization the benefit of the doubt a little. They're not Golden State or Toronto, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt to develop the player. And I'll make an opinion when I see him some more in the NBA. But probably will be just another guy. But when you get to 10 and beyond, that's most of these guys are just going to be guys that are going to be another guy anyway.
All right,
So I guess
we'll do the last four of the lottery.
I'll run all the way to 16 because I actually think the next best player picked in the next group of picks is actually the guy at 16. So we had James Bouknight to Charlotte, decent pick. Joshua Primo, we're going to give the benefit of the doubt to San Antonio.
That's a Spurs thing. That's a Spurs pick. You know what it is. The Spurs picked them A+. So.
Everybody said it was a reach and that he wasn't going to – people said he was going to be like a late first round if he was lucky. But people said Kawhi Leonard couldn't shoot coming out of his draft. So
Pop scouted him. Pop will figure it out for him.
They got the best shooting coach in that organization. Chris Duarte,
I think it is, from Oregon. Yeah, he's the oldest guy in the draft, 24. Yeah, role player type of guy. That's what you're looking for. He's gonna replace TJ Warren in that rotation as the one of the starting wings. He's a knockdown shooter though, and he's a really good defender. So that's what looks like what Dylan Brooks was a couple years ago when he came out of Oregon. That 3-and-D wing type of player.
Moses Moody, I thought was a good pick. I thought probably could be as good as Kuminga, another wing type player for Golden State, because they're going to need wings.
What's interesting about Moses Moody, Cousin Moody, we'll call him Cousin Moody, Moses Moody. He seems like he's more likely to be in a rotation than Kuminga, just because he definitely has more NBA ready skill than Kuminga does, especially as a scorer. He's a solid defender, but he's got a 7'1" wingspan. He's got incredible defensive upside. So I think, Moses Moody will definitely be a part of the Golden State rotation this year.
And then we have Corey Kispert,
the other Washington guy from Gonzaga.
Of the guys on Gonzaga, I think the guy that they got coming out next year, and Suggs were like the guys moving those were the top tier Gonzaga players. But yeah, he was a guy on a good team. That's probably what in the end we'll look back and see. He was a guy on a good college team with NBA ability, NBA size. He's got good size. I like his size.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how he translates.
He's got that. Yeah. I got good size. I can dribble. I can pass. I can shoot. Like I can do all those things at a decent level.
So if you're lucky, he might develop into like a Joe Harris level player, which is good.
That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. That's a good pick in the 15th pick.
Now, here I think is a guy that we can look back in a few years at 16, and the guy from Turkey, Sengi. Yeah, I watched him. He reminds me of Demonis Sabonis. That's who he reminds me of. Like, he's not athletic, but he's quick and he's twitchy, and he does all the low post scoring with some shooting ability and passing ability. And he was the MVP of the third best league in the world. So at 18. So I mean, in a few years, we'll probably look back and wonder how this guy just was able to fall out of the lottery. It's kind of crazy. It's Giannis like, but not like to that. Not Giannis like he's not going to be he probably won't be a future MVP, but he could end up being a top 3 player out of this draft easily with the skill set that he has.
It seems like people weren't really chasing the center early on. So, and looks like one of those old school type of, not modern big man, but kind of the old school type of game with the low post stuff, operating out of the low post. He seems to be a type of guy who his talent dictated him to go a lot higher than he ended up going. I think a few teams may have settled on role players instead of the upside of the foreign guy. I also have one late first round guy that I really like. We're going to shout him out from VCU, Nashawn Highland. They call him Bones Highland. The Denver Nuggets, who are another team that are great at developing players. He seems like the perfect bench core to replace Will Barton, coming off the bench for them as one of those type of guys who could be a microwave off the bench and give you a scoring punch. I like him a lot. I think he's a guy who can make that team and be a part of the rotation. He rolls up the draft boards with a really good combine. Good pick by Denver at 26 overall.
Other guys will toss in that end of the second half of the first round. Jalen Johnson is a guy that has lots of potential. And we see the rumors that Cam Reddish might be on his way out of Atlanta, which would be crazy, absolutely crazy in my opinion. Johnson had questions about if he loves the game, but if he hits and they develop him, that could be a good player. And I also like Kai Jones to Charlotte. I thought that was the better pick. I like his potential as a rim running defensive minded center, catching lobs from LaMelo. I like that pick. And
it's like you can find those. It's easy to find those guys without wasting a pick on them, though.
Really, because that's around the area that Jared Allen went in his draft. The late teens. And I also like Keon Johnson to the Clippers. Getting up in the first round, getting a guy like Keon Johnson, I like that. I didn't know my Nets drafted 3 guys in this draft. I didn't know much about either of them. So I believe in our GM, so we'll see. One's a microwave scorer, and the rest are just defensive-minded type of players, a wing and a big.
Well, if we're going to talk about our team's drafts, we can go ahead and move to the Lakers draft. And the Lakers draft is important for one reason, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Russell Westbrook trade.
Wow. I mean, the rumor came out. Woj drops the rumor that Buddy Hield is going to be a Laker in about 30 seconds later. And like 30 seconds later, it turns out Shams is telling us that Russell Westbrook's going to be a Laker. I'm going to let you start, and I'm going to hit you with my positives, takeaways, and my negative takeaways after you're done.
All right, so just to get the full details of the trade, the Lakers get Russell Westbrook, a 2024 second, and a 2028 second. The Wizards get Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and the 22nd overall pick in this year's draft, which they traded to the Pacers, I think.
That's correct. I'm just going to pause that Montrezl Harrell had to opt into his contract because he had such a terrible year
to get traded.
He opted in to get traded.
That was always the plan. He was always opting in to get traded. But all right. So from the Lakers,
also, I want to point out that he is a part of Clutch Sports, and that's ran by LeBron James, and that's kind of suspect that LeBron James's best friend told him to opt in to get traded, but he wasn't worth anything better on the market.
Clutch don't mean they best friends. That's purely speculative on your part.
I mean, it's only ran by a guy that LeBron James has known since they were in middle school. But I digress. Anyway, you could continue.
All right. So from the Lakers' perspective, the Lakers seemed to be in this offseason. They were having the debate. It looked like it was either going to be put more shooting depth role players around LeBron and AD or chase the third star. And this is Los Angeles. This is the Lakers. So clearly the third star won out. I think this definitely means if this was over already, but Dennis Schroeder is definitely will not be returning to the Los Angeles Lakers. That is a wrap on that. It was always a wrap after his playoff performance anyway, but I think this definitely seals the deal. And it adds very much importance to getting back Caruso and THT. We know a lot of teams are going to be heavily involved in trying to give those young guys big contracts to try to prime from the Lakers, and the Russell Westbrook trade just added to the importance of keeping that depth around for the Lakers. But it gives the Lakers 3 top 15 players who are all possibly the top 20 athletes in the league, and elite athleticism, attacking ability. It's going to be a stampede to the rim. It's going to be like 3 Giannis's, basically, just going to the rim relentlessly through guys, over guys. That's going to be the Lakers' game plan to score. It also helps the non-LeBron lineups. The LeBron lineups with the LeBron James's teams that don't have LeBron on the floor are generally pretty abysmal. Last year, the Lakers were the 31st of the 30th offense in the NBA without LeBron James on the court, and they were like 7th with him. Like, it's that kind of difference. They needed another playmaker to be able to help not only facilitate the offense with LeBron off the floor, but be able to get LeBron to play more off-ball stuff. It's going to force the 80 to play the 5. That's going to be the biggest thing. Everyone knows that AD doesn't prefer to play the 5. He wants to be at the 4 and like playing on the perimeter a little bit. But now with Russell Westbrook showing up and that completely killing your spacing because your shooting ability, somehow one of the worst shooting teams in the league got worse at shooting by adding a player like Russell Westbrook. But if that's going to be the case, LeBron has to be at the 4 and AD has to be at the 5. But I also think it gives the Lakers another like more hunger. I think last year The Lakers who won the title were kind of like casual throughout the season in terms of like not only preparing their bodies, but just ramping it up throughout the season. And that could have caused some of the injuries, that's for sure. Russell Westbrook's not gonna let any of that happen. It's gonna be full go. These guys are gonna be ready to play, ready to chase a title because Westbrook's gonna be the hungriest dude on the team to go get one. Negatives, obviously, the Lakers' biggest weakness last year was shooting the ball. Russell Westbrook does not help with that. He's a guy who takes way too many threes as it is, and is probably the most inaccurate three-point shooter in the history of the NBA. Like that.
Oh damn, the history. I was gonna say he's the worst in the league right
In
now,
the
but you said
the numbers say he could be the worst in the history of the NBA for a guy. Like the difference between good Russell Westbrook and bad Russell Westbrook is literally if he decides to shoot the ball. When he turns down the three, he's Hall of Famer. When he shoots the three, he's a detriment to your team. That's the hot Jekyll and Hyde of Russell Westbrook. I also think this is probably going to hurt Anthony Davis's overall production and efficiency when they're all three guys are on the court because people are just going to pack the paint. They're not going to. There's no reason to try to guard LeBron or Westbrook on the perimeter because like if you play them out there, AD is just going to dominate you in the paint. It's going to be five dudes packed in the paint at all times, which is going to create a lot more problems for AD and his overall offense. They're going to have to do a good job staggering those minutes. The last thing I was going to say, the crunch time lineups is probably one of the bigger negatives because you would have preferred crunch time the ball to be run through LeBron and AD with three shooters spacing the floor out because those are the two best clutch guys on the team. But with Russell Westbrook out there, and he's going to be on the floor down the stretch of games. This is not Dennis Schroeder. You can't take Westbrook off the floor. In the fourth quarter, he's
not
going
for
to be
40,
out there.
not for $40 million.
Especially not for $44 million. They're gonna have to figure out who, like, is the ball going to be in Westbrook's hands? And you let LeBron and AD play off ball. That's probably the most efficient spacing way to do it. But you prefer in clutch moments to have the ball in LeBron's hands. So you're gonna have to figure out a way to get LeBron, AD, and Westbrook to all to be able to work together down the stretch of games on offense. And last but not least, I said egos. It's really ego. It's Russell Westbrook deciding that he has to recognize that he's the third best player on the team. If Russell Westbrook can accept the fact for the first time in probably his entire life, he's the third best player on a basketball team, it can work. But if he goes out here and he thinks that he does what he did to KD, he does what he did to Russell Westbrook, I mean, with James Harden, he does what he did to Bradley Beal, then when the playoffs roll around, he is going to cause problems, and that will prevent the Lakers from winning a championship with the Big Three.
All right, basically, I'll start with this. There was no one champion for Russell Westbrook being one of the better players, one of the more underrated players in the league than me the last 5 years after going back to when Kevin Durant left him stranded in Oklahoma City. But let's just be real. Russell Westbrook is what he is. He's Mr. Triple-Double. I believe so. I'll say this. This is his last chance.
Absolutely.
There's
his
no other
on the line, just like CP3 was last year.
This is his last chance. I'll start with this. The Lakers clearly, when we first saw the rumors, I texted you that this was going to happen. I just could tell that I didn't know Washington wanted off of him, but that's 3 straight years in a row that Russell Westbrook has been traded. He went from being Mr. Thunder to being Mr. Hand them around. And this is looking like the Allen Iverson end of a career. He's going to it's really going to all come down to ego because at the end of the day, I can accept one thing. The Lakers saw that they weren't going to win with what they had, and it was looking like they were probably going to have to stick with what they had. So they just went all in with something because in the end of the day, they had to go all in. And so I'll give them props for swinging. It's just a shame that looking back now, you're probably looking like last year, like, wow, they probably should have took the swing for Chris Paul last year. Now, even though I think Chris Paul will probably break down before Russell Westbrook, the biggest question mark is when will Russell Westbrook break down? He's got a great build. He looks pretty athletic still, but he's going to be 33, 34.
He'll be 33 this year.
He relies thoroughly on athleticism. You already pointed out, I was just going to say he's the worst active three-point shooter in the league. You said he's the worst three-point shooter of all time.
Volume. As a guy who decides to shoot threes, he's the worst at doing it ever.
Yeah. recently his free throw shooting has also gotten worse. So the lineups with him and LeBron are the shooting is going to be abysmal probably. But I will
Now
say,
we have to see the rest of the roster. The Lakers do have
yeah,
the ability to add shooting and everything else. We're just talking about the roster right now.
everybody else on that team is going to have to be a pretty good shooter. The problem is pretty good shooters aren't just lying around everywhere
No
unless
doubt.
Mike Miller's coming out of retirement to help LeBron out. Positive wise, it's going to help the Lakers probably stay healthy through the regular season because at least you could pump Russell Westbrook and get you through the regular season so you could rest LeBron more, take him off the ball, rest Anthony Davis more. And against bad teams, Russell Westbrook in the regular season can carry you. It's been proven in Washington when I said, even though they started off slow, I still believe that him and Bradley Beal will be enough to power you through into the playoffs. Now, they got lucky that there was a play-in tournament all of a sudden that year, and they were going to get in. They were pretty good. Russell Westbrook defensively is underrated, but when it's really on ball, he's better on ball. Off ball,
He's a wandering gambler off the ball,
he
but
might be,
we do have Anthony Davis for that. So
yeah.
he has a little bit more leeway to play that roaming gambling style when you have Anthony Davis protecting the rim behind you.
Offensively and defensively, he might be the worst off ball player we've ever seen in our lifetime. He's a non-shooter, so teams are gonna. Unfortunately, the Lakers, when they won the championship in the bubble, played Houston, and then the strategy they used was just leave Russell Westbrook, which leads me to the biggest negative. In the playoffs, they're going to have to be running a very effective offense where he's going to be backdoor cutting, playing in the
He's
dunker
going to be the
spot.
screener. He's going to be the backdoor cut guy. He's going to be in the dunker spot. Like there's going to be a role for Russell Westbrook on the offense. He's going to have to be, and unfortunately, he's going to have to make a 3-pointer sometimes. Like every now and again, in the fourth quarter, he's going to have a shot wide open in the corner, and he's going to have to make it. Even if he's got to step in for a dribble and shoot his little pull up, he's going to have to make outside shots for this to be successful. It like the 30% that she shoots, it can't go to 15% in the playoffs. He's got to, if he can maintain the 30% whatever day he can give you, and he can make the 1 out of 3 he makes comes in the fourth quarter, it can work out for you. Because at the end of the day, I trust the players. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, like the talent alone dictates that they're going to be a championship contender. Now we know the fit is weird at best, and they're going to have to definitely flesh out the roster with dudes who fit the team with shooting and defense especially. But with those 3 dudes on the team, like they're not going to be a bad team. Like this is that's the talent is just too great.
The other positive I will say is I'll compare this to when the Dodgers stole Matt Scherzer and Trey Turner from the Padres. I believe that the Clippers were also in on Russell Westbrook, and I do believe he would have been a better fit there because their 2 players are shooters. And if the Lakers heard any rumblings about that, they had to make this happen just to stop the Clippers from getting him because that could have helped them survive the Kawhi Leonard ACL injury. So, I mean, to hurt a rival, and because nobody else in the West is probably going to make a bigger move than bringing in Russell Westbrook, the stars aligned for them to take this risk.
Yes.
Really, in the end.
It's a calculated risk. It's not reckless. I don't believe it's reckless.
Oh, at least it's entertaining. I'll tell you one thing.
Oh, it's Hollywood for sure.
It's going to be entertaining.
You can see the thought process behind it.
Yeah. And at least if it works, it'll be entertaining. It'll be must-see TV. And if it goes to shit and burns down, it'll be even more must-see TV. So the Lakers are going to go with entertaining and box office, which is how they roll. So, I mean, I'm not mad at it, but I'll say one thing. If you thought fitting Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant into a lineup together harmonically was going to be hard, this is that on steroids. The shooting, I feel sorry for Anthony Davis because, like you said, teams are going to be able to play 2 bigs now probably. Like, is this what Utah, like against Utah, Rudy Gobert is going to be a really hard matchup because he could actually just get away with standing in the paint as long as he doesn't have to switch on to a Terrence Mann like play, I guess. And I don't know if you guys have any Terrence Mann players.
That's going to be the key. If they can find a way to get dudes who can make an outside shot they'll be fine. But if it's like the playoffs last year where Kuzma and KCP and Wesley Matthews were due, where you Dennis Schroeder, where you weren't even covering them because it was no chance any shot they took was going in the basket, it'll be a problem. But we just saw the last 2 seasons, like what lesser 3-point shooting teams have won the title in the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Lakers. So it's not impossible for a team that's not elite at shooting to win the championship. You just have to be so special at getting to the basket and finishing that you can overcome the math. And that's what the Lakers are fighting math right now. They're saying our efficient twos are going to be better than your threes. And that's how they're going to, it's how they won the title in 2020. It's how they're going to try to win it this year.
And my last thoughts on it is I'll say this will clearly make the Lakers the favorite in the West if they stay healthy. They're an older team that got older, so that's a big question.
Older
but
teams
it's clear, but they're really old. But it's clear that they're building up for the Bucks or the Nets because with just LeBron and AD, I don't know if they were just going to be able to just be ready to match the firepower of those teams with just two. So they had to go get a third guy. They couldn't get Chris Paul, and there wasn't anybody else available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully we finally get the Nets versus Lakers finals that we wanted last year. But if you want any
even more
last words
on with Westbrook in the equation, that's even more entertaining.
Yeah,
but real quickly,
teammates.
I'm gonna go over we'll just talk about the Wizards from their perspective. They gave up Russell Westbrook. I think this puts a lot of pressure on Bradley Beal because Bradley Beal keep talking about he was 50-50 on whether he was about to stay. He looked like he's decided that he wants to stay in DC, and now he's officially the only guy there. John Wall's not there no more. Westbrook not there no more. Bradley Beal's got to be everything and more for this team for them to compete. And I really don't know because either they compete and he's great or they don't and he demands a trade. Like, I really don't know what they do here post Russell Westbrook trade because as good as I think Bradley Beal is, I really don't know with the talent around him how the Wizards can compete for a playoff spot.
I actually have the answer to that. When Russell Westbrook left Oklahoma City, they went into trust the process mode. When Russell Westbrook left Houston, they ended up going into trust the process mode. And now that Russell Westbrook is leaving the Washington Wizards, it's not going to be too long before Bradley Beal is showing up in a fat suit and they've got to trade him away. And they'll be headed into trust the process mode. Every team that Russell Westbrook has left, he's left them in shambles, and he's gotten the coach fired. So they picked up that terrible Kyle Kuzma contract.
It's not a terrible contract. I don't believe that's terrible. Kuzma's a young, decent 3-and-D wing. He's at $13 million. That's not outrageous.
If he doesn't drop 15 points, if he's not dropping an efficient 15 points per game with good defense on a and
the first 3 years of his
basketball,
career, he was 16 plus a game. So we've seen Kuzma be able to average 15 plus points a game multiple years in this league. So I don't believe that's going to be a problem for him.
What scared me is his mental strength. If he just tunes it out though and just starts collecting checks, he could easily be a guy that just tunes it all out, stops trying, and he just shows up and collects his check and lives his Hollywood lifestyle in DC and flying back and forth. So I don't know how good. I mean, I'll say one thing: they got off that Russell Westbrook contract, which
that's the key.
Like Chris Paul, like they did, and like
any
John
contract
Wall,
is tradable. That's no longer. Don't ever talk to me about an untradeable contract ever again. It's not true. It's never been true.
But I think that we'll wrap that up and we'll move on to a little bit of free agency preview. It's not a big free agency year, luckily.
So tomorrow at 6, teams can officially start negotiating, and on Saturday, the tampering period, and then on Saturday they can officially start signing free agents. We've already got some rumblings going on about some different rumors with the big names. Kawhi opted out today. Chris Paul's gonna opt out. Kyle Lowry is apparently being shocked, looking like he's going to be in Miami or Philadelphia. New Orleans is a name that appeared about Kyle Lowry.
Dallas,
another one too. So yeah, a lot of definitely a lot of news. Not a lot of big names in terms of who we think is going to change teams, because we expect Kawhi and Chris Paul to both stay. Don't you think?
Team wise, the Knicks have cap space, the Heat have cap space, the Mavs have cap space, the Pelicans have cap space, the Spurs.
And the Bulls.
Yeah, and none of those teams are, except for Dallas, are really destinations that are going to be relevant for the playoff race next year. Now, I think a lot of people have forgotten that Miami and Dallas were hoarding cap space with the hopes to sign Giannis because he
or
would have been
AD.
they would have been free agents this year, but they both re-signed and won championships with their current team, so they're not on the market. It's Kawhi's probably gonna. I don't know. They said Kawhi's gonna resign. He's on a torn ACL. His owner has lots of money, so I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna predict that he'll resign there. I think that's pretty hum ho. Chris Paul. I'll warn anybody if you are signing Chris Paul to a 3-year deal, you're signing the next bad. You're signing the next bad contract in the NBA. I don't see Chris Paul holding up for another 3+ years, maybe a year, and you hope that you win it. You win it all with that
You're
year. But
hoping
I'm
you're
gonna
hoping you win it. Like
if
that's
if Phoenix does it, I can understand. But I'm gonna warn anybody, New York Knicks particular, Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Pelicans. If you're signing Chris Paul to 3 more years, watch out. But I'm gonna predict that he stays in Phoenix. So those are the two big fish, Kawhi and Chris Paul. How do you feel where they're gonna end up?
yeah, it's pretty chalk. I expect them both to resign. Kawhi, he's got a rehab that knee in LAC. I haven't really heard any whispers about him even thinking about other places, although I think he'd be great in New York. But like
I also think he'd be good in Dallas.
he also be good. He'd be great in Dallas too. But it really doesn't sound like we expect Kawhi to go anywhere. He loves it over there in California. He loves being in LA. The LA proved that they could do something. Like if Kawhi was healthy, they could easily be the NBA champions with the way their season was going. So like it's not like he's got just a better situation waiting for him elsewhere. Same thing with Chris Paul. One, I think his market isn't going to be as grand as it's made out to be. I expect really only the Knicks and the Mavericks to actually really consider throwing money at him. But with Phoenix being in the finals just last year, I'm sure Phoenix is going to offer him the obligatory. Here's the max extension for you for the next couple years because we're trying to win it right now. We think we got the team. You were the missing piece that put us over the top, so we got to bring you back. Other big name free agents, we got Mike Conley, who's expected to return to Utah. Kyle Lowry,
I
obviously.
I expect Mike Conley. Apparently that they're not giving him a full max, but apparently there's like a three
He's
years,
getting the Terry Rozier
$75 million.
deal. I saw the Terry
Yeah,
Rozier three
yeah,
for 60.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they had to because they're maxed out. That's why they
Yeah,
dumped Derek Favors. I
that's
mean,
what Utah was in the position with Conley that we were in with Dennis. The Lakers were in with Dennis Schroeder,
yeah,
and
it's boring. Move
you have
on.
to bring
That's
that guy
really all I
back.
guess. Yeah, it's boring. Move on. That's all I gotta say about Utah. Uh, you
We
skip
got
Kyle Lowry.
yeah,
Kyle Lowry
Kyle
sign a
Lowry is
trade.
probably the biggest name that's expected to change teams. Uh, um, as far as this offset, but he although with Toronto not drafting a guard, I guess the window for him to return is open. But I would be surprised. I think a championship like Philly championship contender will probably could really use him. The Clippers, the Mavs, basically any team with a point guard. The Lakers were also on the list before they obviously made the Russell Westbrook trade. It seems like Kyle Lowry is going to get 90 million from somebody, 100+ million from somebody. So, I expect him to end up in Miami. It seems like that's been the hottest rumor, and Pat Riley is usually pretty good at closing the deal. So that's where I expect him to go.
And like all the signs points was that when you see a guy like Goran Dragic uh, opt in, he looked like he
Mhm.
had to suck up and do the Montrezl Harrell opt in and get traded method.
Yeah.
Uh, Miami looks poor. All signs point to Miami, but with Kyle Lowry being the big name, I'm for sure that somebody will give him a bag that he doesn't that he won't live up to. And I think a dark horse is waiting in the wing to steal Kyle Lowry. But
Oh
Pat
wow.
Riley's known Pat Riley's known to close deals. But one more, and then let's knock out all the unrestricted free agents before we get to some restricted ones.
All right. So I got
We
some other
skipped over
guys. All right, you go
DeMar
ahead.
DeRozan.
Yeah, I was
DeMar
about to say
DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan was the next name up. Otto Porter Jr. is another free agent. You got Oladipo, who like I don't know what's going on with that. Big Tim Hardaway Jr. is a free agent this year. That's going to be a guy. Dennis Schroeder, obviously. Let's see, Kelly Oubre, Will Barton, a couple other smaller names. Spencer Dinwiddie, a restricted free agent. So we'll see how that goes as well. So yeah, a
So
few
this
more like high quality, like upper echelon role players on the market.
Of those names you mentioned, the three that caught my eye, of course, were DeMar DeRozan. I think he's going to end up in Dallas. I think that'd be a good fit for
You think
him.
he stays in Texas?
Yeah, I think they probably let Tim Hardaway Jr. walk or try to resign him, but I think they'll go with DeMar DeRozan. Spencer Dinwiddie, I would love if my Nets could package him in a sign and trade and
For
get a
Dennis?
Kristaps Porzingis. But I think he's going to the Knicks. I think Spencer Dinwiddie's going to the Knicks on a big contract. And the other name that you mentioned was Kelly Oubre. I think he resigns in Golden State. I think he resigns in Golden
You think
State.
so? I feel like his spot's basically been taken, but I got you.
I mean, those guys aren't ready to play, so maybe they could, but they can't really afford to lose any assets. They're capped out anyway, so I mean, they got to keep spending that money to keep the team.
Yeah, Kelly Oubre is one of those like interesting guys where he's probably going to get more money than he's probably worth, and Golden State's in a position where they probably just have to give it to him because they can't do anything else because the NBA cap is so weird.
But I will say they do have Andrew Wiggins and Clay. They have a lot of bad contracts, so they'll probably have to trade Andrew Wiggins first.
Yeah, absolutely. It's surprising that hasn't been done already, but there's still plenty of time in free agency to figure that out. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy who I think he's going to get a gigantic bag on the market from somebody because his skill set, big wing shooter, is very much something that could be useful in the NBA for a championship contender. Let's see. Will Barton, I think, is an underrated guy. Your boy Kelly Olynyk is also on the market. These are some high quality, talented role players who I think not a lot of big fish in terms of like this isn't the 2016 Kevin Durant. All the top 10 players are on the market, but if a championship team or a team that's trying to like go from good to great or average to good can find good role players on this market if they pay them the amount that they're supposed to pay them and not overpay. Teams can go out here and really improve their team.
But teams are known to overpay in free agency, so all those guys they better be. This is the Luol Deng, Timothy Mozgov free agency class all over again. A lot of guys who are just free, not good players, just free and available, going to get overpaid and be traded for going to be put with an asset in a couple years to get off the books, a la Kemba Walker.
But that's why I think, and what we're about to talk about next is going to be the real action of free agency, the restricted free agency market.
And off the top of my head alone, Lonzo Ball, Jared Allen, I'm missing. And those two are the big ones that I'll be looking out for.
John Collins, who with his big playoff run last year, is going to be a big name in the restricted free agency market. Lauri Markkanen is another name on there. Josh Hart, he got his restricted free agent offer. Devontae Graham just got his today. Gary Trent Jr., your guy Bruce Brown, Nicolo Melli, Dennis Smith Jr., some other guys as well. But yeah, I think if there's going to be the people who are getting overpaid are going to be on this market. Obviously, with the biggest name being Lonzo Ball.
So Chicago, New York, Knicks, and Dallas Mavericks are the teams I would say are targeting him most. I'm surprised.
Isn't it surprising that the team that he hasn't been announced to is his own team? Like I haven't heard any rumors of Lonzo just staying in New Orleans.
Apparently, they want to go get Kyle Lowry.
Yeah,
they want to go get Kyle Lowry. But I'm sorry. In the end, I think they'll match any offer, and he'll be forced to go back to New Orleans because in the end, they'll look at the Anthony Davis trade and be like, "We got to keep him." And that's the smart.
With these guys.
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't let him out the door because I still think Lonzo Ball is going to make another jump next year. So if he went to Dallas, that'd be a good fit. But I think in the end of the day,
I think he's going to get overpaid in Chicago or New York, and that's where I think he ends up. One of those teams, whoever doesn't get Kyle Lowry is going to throw Lonzo $100+ million. I truly believe that.
As for Jared Allen, apparently the rumors are that Cleveland's signing him, and he's staying there no matter what.
That seems like a match. That's a match anything type of guy. But if Cleveland thinks that if they draft Evan Mobley, they're just going to play him at center right away. Maybe they don't.
If the offer gets ridiculous,
yeah. If it gets outrageous or whatever, I don't really know what offer would be too great. Like a max, maybe. I don't know if someone's going to offer Jared Allen the max, but that's probably the only thing that would keep me from maybe re-signing Jared Allen. But yeah,
When I
I fully expect him to be back.
when I look at Allen, like would he fit with Bam in Miami?
I don't
Because
think so. Bam's not a shooter.
but I do think he'd fit nicely in Dallas.
He would. He would be the perfect five to put next to KP.
So and then they need to get their defense better. So like I could see them attacking a Jared Allen and Alonzo Ball if they're letting Tim Hardaway Jr. go. And they just traded Josh Richardson, so they're gonna have to go get somebody now.
Mhm.
They might go hard for Alonzo Ball. I just remember Jason Kidd is their head coach, and he might see himself in him and go hard at that. And I think Lonzo Ball would fit really well with Luka Doncic, being that he can play. He likes playing transition offense. When he needs,
Lonzo's an off-ball point guard. Like that's
yeah,
what he is, not a ball dominant guy. He's a dude who in half court he's a spot up shooter, and the full court he's making the decision on the break.
yeah. Any other things? Any other predictions for these restricted free agents like
Uh, I
John
expect
Collins?
Lauri Markkinen to get massively overpaid by somebody, and I don't think Chicago will match when he does. So, but I think a team who like the New Orleans Pelicans could really go after a guy like Lauri Markkinen as that spacing big man for next to Zion Williamson. So
That's going
that's
to
a
be
guy who,
terrible defensively.
yeah, it's not gonna be great defensively, but hey, if you can score 120 points, that gives you a better shot, I think, than just being bad on offense and defense, which is what somehow New Orleans is both. John Collins is a guy who I like a lot. He kind of faded from the Hawks rotation towards the end of the regular season after they made the McMillan hire. But as you saw in the playoffs, John Collins is one of those dudes athletically and skill wise can hang at the highest possible level of basketball. He's one of those dudes who knockdown shooter. I think he's better as a small ball five than he is as a four. But I like John Collins a lot. I think the Hawks should match basically whatever gets thrown at him, but well, that remains to be seen. I don't know if they like him that much.
And my last thought thinking about this: three teams: the New Orleans Pelicans with Zion Williamson, the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic, and the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young. This free agency class and period and off season will make or break the future of those guys because New Orleans got some big decisions to make. Dallas has some big decisions to make. Atlanta's got some big decisions to make, and they're on the clock. So Atlanta scares me because, they already talked. It's clear they don't know how they're going to keep all their guys and which guys they want to keep and which guys they want to let go because they've got so much now.
Yeah.
But that's why you hire a good GM to hope that you can get through that. New Orleans has so much, but has done nothing. And that's even scarier that they're about to start maxing guys out. They've got Zion coming up next year. Already got to max out to Brandon Ingram. Probably going to have to max out Lonzo Ball. And they haven't made the playoffs. So that's going to be tough
And
to do
Josh
that.
Hart's a restricted free agent as well. And
Yeah.
his injury was really big in their season last year.
Yeah. So paying a lot of guys and not win. And then lastly, Dallas. Luka's got top 5, headed towards top 3, best player in the league potential. You're going to have to get something better next to him than Mr. Kristaps Porzingis post-injury.
Yeah. One last restricted free agent name I want to mention because he's a guy who I also think has a chance to get massively overpaid in the restricted free agent market, and that's Taylor Horton Tucker for the Los Angeles Lakers. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why the rumors seem to be that someone's going to poison pill his contract and backload it entirely and put the Lakers in an uncomfortable position. And he's a depth player that the Lakers can really use with their roster being as thin as it is. But word is the Knicks, the Bulls, the Pelicans are all teams that have a lot of interest in adding him because they see the potential upside in the guy at his age and skill set.
My prediction: San Antonio and Greg Popovich get back at the Los Angeles Lakers and they poison pill the hell out of the Taylor Horton Tucker with their.
That doesn't seem like a Pop thing to do. He's just being petty.
Yeah, exactly. He got to get y'all back. So I that's my bold prediction. The San Antonio Spurs throw a massive bag at Taylor Horton Tucker.
I think they like Alex Caruso more.
So they're doing it for sure. So is it a guarantee that they'll try with one of those players just to mess with y'all?
Anything else? I wouldn't be surprised. We know how Pop is.
Anything else?
No, I think that's a good wrap up. Free agency kicks off tomorrow at 6 p.m. We'll probably have all the news. Woj and Chance will probably have all the news by the time we getting up in the morning, like Adam Schefter on the night before free agency. So I think we can expect a lot of news. No real big news, but a lot of news overall.
All right. I think that's all for today. And like I told everybody last time, we've got some great football content coming out the next following weeks after this free agency period. Just look out for that, and we'll catch y'all later.
Yes, sir.